Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Grow Your Tutoring Business with me. Today, we're going to be looking at technology and the role it can play in helping us grow our business. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how technology could take up a role of an extra employee in our business. We're going to look at the pros and cons of AI and how that can support the growth, but also it might be the downfall of some of our creativity. And the last point I'd like to cover is how we can use some systems to make it easier for parents to pay us. I believe that money flows down the easiest channel, so we should be making it easy for our clients to pay us. Let's run the intro and get straight into it. So technology, it's hard to avoid it in our business. I mean, I offer a lot of face-to-face tuition, so it's I quite like the fact that we do a lot of work off the screen. I do offer online as well, so therefore I do have some tech in my business. I think all of us will, and so it's hard to ignore the fact that actually we rely on a lot of technology to keep our business up and running, but also the fact that we use it to grow our business. So you probably use a laptop or a PC of some sort. You might use a camera if you're online. If you're growing your business, your tutoring business from a social media perspective, then you're using a phone or you're using a desktop and you're using a bit of software online, whether it's or an app like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, one of those things where you are able to present yourself, be visible so that people can find out about you, like you, and buy from you. What tech you use can be up to you and what the needs of your business. For example, I've got a microphone here. I've also got like a good camera recording me from behind my monitor, and I've got a light up top, which I currently don't need because there's enough light coming through the window, and that's just like three pieces. I'm actually excluding my laptop, but if I add up the cost of all of these things around me that I'm using right now to record this, it's thousands of pounds. And so technology, although it is really important, it can also add up. Like the cost to have these things in our business can add up to quite a big amount, but especially if we feel like we need to have these things to start off with. So there's some sort of startup cost. I actually accrued a lot of these things along the way. The mic's the latest edition. The camera I've had for about a year. The light came about 6 months ago. The laptop I had right at the start of my tutoring journey because I needed something to work on, and I went for a MacBook Air because I wanted the reliability and the longevity. It's almost 4 years old now, and it's still like it works like it's brand new. And I know if I'd have got a Windows laptop, I'd be looking to replace it now, or I probably would have had to replace it about a year ago, because I know Windows laptops have about 3, maybe 4 years. If you spent quite a lot of money, sometimes they can last about 4 years. So technology is one of those things that needs upgrading. We need to keep our fingers on the pulse to stay up to date. So let's look at point number 1. Can technology take on the role of an extra employee? I think yes, but I do think the role is still limited. So let me explain this a bit further. Technology can take on some of the more tedious tasks in our business. We can set up systems using tech so that we don't have to do as much data input. We can set up systems like on something called Zapier. If you haven't looked at Zapier before, have a look at this. It's a paid for system, although there is a free version, but you can't do a lot with it. Where, let's say, for example, somebody emails you, you can set up a system where like Zapier would recognize that is an inquiry for tutoring, and it will move that person's email address into a Google sheet, which you've created. And I would create that as a leads sheet, so I know everybody coming into the business or potential business, and it creates me a spreadsheet. And I don't really have to do anything apart from just set up that little system. It'll take me about half an hour. And so what we do on Zapier is I would say I'd connect my Gmail to Zapier, and then I'd ask it to look out for keywords such as tuition, interested in tuition. And I'd probably give it a few keywords. And if any of those things happen to be in the email or in the subject heading, it would recognize that, and it would obviously keep it in Gmail. It would still stay as an email, but what it would do, it would just grab that person's email address and any other contact details that I could possibly get, and it would just drag it into a Google Sheet automatically for me. So I could log on, for example, let's say I was like a super successful tuition business and I had 10 inquiries every day. I don't, but let's just pretend. I could wake up on the Saturday morning, I could open up my Google Sheet and I could look at everybody that had contacted me the previous day, and then I could go about replying to them. And because it's all kept on a Google Sheet, there's more I can do with it there. So, for example, I could then create a CSV file from that point, upload it to my email on perhaps an email client. As long as you've got permission to do that, you can keep their email addresses in your email client. And then you can have them in your tutoring world from that point on. Other tasks like bookkeeping, I think, has been sort of revolutionary for lots of us, because now we don't necessarily need to employ someone to do the finances. What we could do instead is download an app, and the app can do a lot of that work for us. For example, an app like QuickBooks, where we can just take a photo of a receipt, we can send invoices, we can link it to our business account. It can track money in and money out. So you can keep track of the money in your business, what's going in, what's going out. You can keep track of year on year information. You can start doing forecasts. So we're sort of taking it to the next level. And because it's digital and it's keeping track of all of those things, as long as you're inputting everything in there, at the end of the year, you're going to have a pretty accurate tax return information, so that you can just go onto HMRC and you can upload that information. Now, this is going to be important because we're all going to be forced to go tax digital in 2024. So having a piece of software like that is going to become the norm. And it's probably a good idea to start getting used to it now when it's not so critical, so that when it comes to the point when you have to do this, you're going to be pretty much an expert at it. Another thing that I use technology for is scheduling. So I create a lot of events, and what I've done over the last few years is I got quite familiar with Calendly. So I do really like Calendly. However, it is a bit of a faff to create one-off events. So what I've moved to more recently is Eventbrite and Ticket Tailor. And I quite like both of these sites. They're very similar. I think Ticket Tailor is the one that I'm kind of edging towards, more because they don't take as much of the fee. So Eventbrite takes 50p per transaction and then a further 7% of the fee, whereas Ticket Tailor, it's just 50p per transaction. So and it's still really easy to use, really easy to set up. The sales pages look really good. They're really customizable, and they've got all the things that you want there to make it work, like all the links and the hyperlinks that you can put into your landing pages and on your website and on Facebook and all your socials, really. So those are the things that I'm leaning towards. And what I love about this is, similar to the automation with Zapier, maybe from emails into a Google Sheet, is that when someone buys something on Ticket Tailor or Eventbrite, it will just populate the list for you. It'll take the money and it'll pay you into your account. Again, we're just making life really easy, not just for you, but for the customer as well. There's also an added bonus with something like Eventbrite, because the branding message for Eventbrite is that it's a trustworthy place. It's got tons of reviews. Loads of people have used it in the past. That people continue to use it for lots of different types of events. So there's a little bit, or an element of me that's drawn towards Eventbrite, because I know that if the person on the other side of the screen would trust Eventbrite in terms of when they click the Pay Now button, they feel like that's going to be dealt with in a very secure way. Whereas I think with Ticket Tailor, it is going to be dealt with in a secure way, but has it got the same brand trust as Eventbrite? And that's the one thing that's keeping me using both at the moment. I'm still experimenting with them, but that is something which I'm going to figure out over the next sort of 12 months or so. I'm in no rush to just be loyal to one of them. I just want to see which one works best. So technology can take up a lot of work, admin work, in terms of scheduling and creating itineraries. So you can say, here's my schedule, here are my events, here are the links, this is how you can pay. You can set up discount codes, you can set up loyalty bonuses, and you can do all of that and let the tech do that work for you. Before I had these things in place, I still offered discounts. But what I had to do was I'd have to do that all manually. So someone would buy into a workshop, or perhaps a series of workshops with me. Then I'd have to go to the invoicing software. I'd have to then work out the percentage discount, and I'd have to reissue that invoice. And I'd have to do that with everybody that then applied to. But now I can just send them one link over with a code and the technology can do it for me. And so it's saving me a lot of time. But more importantly, I think it's just saving a lot of stress. I don't need to worry about doing those things anymore because the technology is doing that job for the business. While we're talking about scheduling, I mean, I'm really being focused there on selling like events and perhaps the tutoring service as a whole. Actually, scheduling social posts as well is something that technology can take over. I've bought into Zoho Social. So I use Zoho for this is ZOHO for invoicing, but I also use it for the socials now. And it means that I can create one post and then use Zoho Socials to then send it to all of my social channels. So one post can be repurposed lots of times. I think we worked out that even in the doing it in the most basic way, that one post can be repurposed 16 times. And it can be different. Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't want that post to go on Twitter, or I don't want that post to go on Facebook, or maybe I don't want that post to go on all of my Facebook channels, maybe just a few of them. And it can control that too. But what that means is I can do a batch load of content creation. So maybe on a Sunday morning, come into the office, I can create 10 posts that I can then actually give it to my daughter to use on Soho Socials, and then she can then schedule it for the month. And so in the 2 hours work on a Sunday morning, I can create the posts I need, and then it sort of goes down the chain. It goes to Melody, my daughter, who would then post out onto the socials for me. But I can do that in one go. Technology does all of the hard work, because otherwise I'd have to post in all the Facebook groups. I'd have to post on my Facebook page or pages, on my personal profile. I'd have to repurpose it for Instagram, for TikTok, if you're on TikTok, all of those things. And that would take a lot of time. Whereas this one piece of software, yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but it takes off a lot of time and stress and effort. Because guess what happens when things cause you stress and pain? We tend not to do it. That's when we start procrastinating, and then we start to feel bad that we don't do it. So these technology is also about not just saving us time, but just relieving our stresses and pains in the business. Okay, second point, AI. I am a massive fan of AI. When I started playing around with ChatGPT just before Christmas, it absolutely blew my mind. If you've not got into the ChatGPT world yet, just have a Google of it, create an account. It gets really busy, so sometimes you can't get on, but just stick with it. Maybe like leave it a couple of hours and try again. And then when you get into ChatGPT, just ask it a very simple question and see the response that you've got. I've used it for all sorts of things over the last few months. I've created comprehension stories. I've created comprehension questions. I've asked it to do it in the style of a Key Stage 2 SATs paper. I've done maths questions. I've also asked it to like look at my Facebook post. So what I'll do is I will create a Facebook post and I'll write it into ChatGPT and I'll say, can we make it funnier? Can you change it to more informal? Can you make it more formal? Can I change this to something that will convert highly? And I'll just ask it to do all sorts of crazy things. But I will give a word of warning here. You could get it to do everything for you. You could just say, can you create me a Facebook post? But I feel that that's not going to serve you well ongoing. It's quite easy to do that, but it won't be in your voice and it won't be your message. So although AI is amazing in some of the things that it can do, you do have to be careful that we don't lean on it too much and it takes that creativity away. But I think more importantly, we don't lean on it too much that it takes our voice away. It should still sound like us when we're using it. And if you're using it for content ideas, that's really good as well. I've done that as well. I've given me ideas for 15 emails. Although I don't really do that in the tutoring world or in I suppose this world of helping other tutors. I've done that in my digital marketing space for another company. But that's amazing because you can I just go in and ask it a really basic question. Like for April, for example, I've asked ChatGPT, but what kinds of special days are coming up in April that I could write a message around for fitness? And it will just pick off some bits and pieces and say, why don't you think about this? There's this day on April the 12th. There's this day on April the 22nd. And then from there, I would go and create my content. And that would come from me because I still want that to be in my voice. And if I'm stuck at any point or I want to expand something or I want more information, I could go back and use AI to support that. So it's there in a supportive capacity. It actually takes away a lot of sort of that stress of coming up with new ideas. And then you can even, it's so powerful that you could even ask it to structure it for you. And you could say, right, these are my ideas. I've got 10 ideas. Can you put it in a good idea and make it flow? Make it sound like they all connect. Can you connect the dots for me? Those kind of things. And that's been a real game changer since Christmas. So much so now, I haven't subscribed to ChatGPT like the next level, actually. But what I've done is I've subscribed to a different piece of software called Chat Sonic, which is basically software as a system. It's called Write Sonic, actually, and it's got lots of different things in there. But what I use this for the most is to help me with my blog creation. So I'll go in there and give it a load of input, like my ideas. And then what it will do, it will give me a lot of responses and it will generate bullet points for me to then go and write and create a nice, I suppose, well-designed blog post. But it will also do images for me as well. I mean, it is just a bit of a beast of a system, and it's quite, well, I think reasonably priced at about I think it's about $12 a month. But again, like when we're talking about technology helping the business and taking the role of an employee, or I'm not saying taking a job away, but what I mean is using it as an extra employee, like that is going to cost a little bit of money. But if the output is worth it, if I can do 2 to 3 blogs a week, that's worth it, because previously I was struggling to do one a month. But now with the support of AI, I can do 2 to 3 a week. And it also helps me even with the creation of the podcast as well, because I can look at my bullet points and I can say, I need to put a bit more effort into this. I need to know a little bit more. So I can use it as a research tool as well. And you can do the same. You can use AI to help research your target audience. You can use research to do your SWOT analysis on your business. You can use the AI to look at local businesses similar to yours and find their websites and find their social pages. So you can have a really good, deep look at what's going on around you in your tutoring world. I'm really excited about AI. I think that it's something which can really give us the boost that we need in our business, particularly if you are a sole trader. I think if you've got a larger team, you could look at how your larger team could be utilizing this to really help grow what they currently do. You could use it as a training tool. You could use it as a customer service tool. There's just so many possibilities. Like, I think right now, I've not even scratched the surface of how much it could do, but I am super excited about it. I'd like you to get super excited about it and see the possibilities that it could offer you as well. Okay, the last point is about making payments as easy as you can for parents. I'm a big fan of online payments. I prefer creating direct debits. However, I'm about 50-50 this year with my parents. Some just preferred having a terminal invoice, and about 50% preferred just having being put onto the direct debit. I'm going to experiment from September. I'm not going to offer terminal invoices. I'm just going to offer to be put on the direct debit to see how that goes. And if people request to be invoiced, then I will invoice. But I think from my point of view, to set everything up in September, well, mainly August, actually, August, September, and then not really having to touch that again until or maybe August the next year, is like that. That seems ideal for me. Whereas at the moment, although it's still less than what I was doing last year, I still have to go on and send the invoice in, make sure I do the remittance, check off when people pay. And it takes a little bit of time. But I mean, this time last year, I was spending a lot longer. And now I don't have to do that because the system is easier. So I'm definitely looking at how we can make online payments easier. The second thing I do, because I run events and I do a lot of one-off like workshops, I still wanted that to be like a click a button and pay online. So I've got a Stripe account, and everything in the business goes through my Stripe account. It's linked to my Starling business account. And so everything runs through there, or as much as possible, it runs through there, because it keeps track of money in and money out. And I can create links on Stripe. So what I mean by a link is, let's say I've got a Kent test mock test morning coming up. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? And I've created a landing page. And on the landing page is a button that says secure your child's space. And when it does that, what it will do, it will take them to an Eventbrite page that will book that where they can pay. and Eventbrite keeps their information and takes the money. I don't have to do any of that work of creating the list, sending an invoice, making sure they pay. Eventbrite's going to take care of that for me. I'm hoping that I could use Ticket Tailor in the future because they don't take so much of a percentage of the main money, because I do want to keep as much money in the business as I can. And we all should have that in mind. But I am prepared to do that for now because of the stress it takes away from me and the time it saves me. And it makes it really easy for the parent to pay, because otherwise they might press that button. They would wait for me to respond and say, yes, your place is secure. And then I'd have to send them an invoice, and then they'd have to pay me, and then I'd have to check that they've paid, and so on and so on. It kind of feels like it becomes quite a cumbersome thing. Whereas if I can just put it in a landing page or on an email, and then they pay, everything's done. There's none of this sort of going forwards and backwards and creating stress when there's no need to. So create a channel where you can, or find software that can create this channel where you can take money from people really easily. Don't put too many barriers in the way. I actually ran an experiment this week, although it wasn't really about the payment part. It was about the pricing and making things difficult, or more difficult than they should be. I put a post in my main Facebook group where I'm selling a couple of the workshops, but I put the dates, and I did forget to put the times on, but I purposely didn't put the price, but I put the link to the landing page, which is a strong call to action for people to take. It doesn't necessarily mean that people always click. It's got quite a decent click-through rate, but what it hasn't got is a good like the next part. Really, I want the next logical step is for them to either register to stay on an email list or to actually click and purchase one of the workshops. People have purchased some of the workshops, but it's not quite as high as what I thought it would be. But on purpose, I didn't put the price on the original post. So some people might not feel confident enough to click the link because I don't really know what they're going in for. So this week, I'm going to do the second part of the experiment, which is put the price everywhere. Make sure all of the usual frequently asked questions are answered in the post so that people feel more confident and perhaps there's less vague information. They're going to be able to find out more before clicking the link where they're asked to take the strongest action of all, which is book and pay. Okay, that's the end of this episode. It's been great to talk to you about technology and the role it can play in our business, but let's not forget to not lean too much on the AI. We do not want to lose the creativity. We definitely do not want to lose our own voice when we're putting our messaging out there. And I feel like that's what I'm seeing more and more of. You can definitely see the trend of people using AI to create marketing campaigns and social media posts. People still want to see you. Okay. People still will buy from people. They won't buy from businesses. And they definitely want to be able to hear your voice in the messages, whether it's like this through a camera, whether it's just through audio, through a microphone, or whether it's through the text that they read on their screen. I hope it was useful. Take care, everybody. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.